Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Tesla Effect, a Tex Murphy adventure. Not to be confused with Tex Murphy Tesla Effect, which is not a real game, as it turns out. I found that out on my Steam list when I was confused as to why I couldn't search for Tex Murphy. No, it's called Tesla Effect. Okay, interesting story, of course, behind the Tex Murphy games. These games go back to 1988. Although the one that many people remember didn't come out until 1994, under a Killing Moon. That was one of the most expensive games to be released at the time, actually. It cost over $2 million to make, 4 years of development time, and it was very, very heavily filmed with the FMV game kind of style, which became popular in the 90s. So a lot of green screen. And let's be honest, green screen in 1994... not the best. Green screen with a $2 million development budget for a game and not a movie, even worse. So it gained something of a reputation as being a game that was kind of laden with campy acting, amusing but silly storylines, and bad FMV. And that actually became a staple of the franchise, and it became something that people actually have fond memories of. The series continued through the Pandora Directive, Tex Murphy Overseer, and they were all developed by a company called Access. And now, many, many years later, God, is it a many, many years later, I mean, the last game came out in 1998. In 2014, we get Tesla Effect. This comes from a Kickstarter, actually. Project Fedora, they called it, before they realized what a terrible idea that would be if they were trying to promote it on Reddit. And it eventually became Tesla Effect, and it was developed by a company called Big Finish. Got published by Atlas, oddly enough. But I guess it makes sense. Atlas is a company that does love its oddities. And an FMV game in 2014 is certainly an oddity, there's no doubt about that. So, let's have a look at it and see what it's all about. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a first-person point-and-click with a lot of FMV sequences. You play a detective by the name of Tex Murphy, who is in the future. He's been in the future for a great deal of time, needless to say. And you have to work out what on earth is happening. You lose your memory very, very early on indeed. All sorts of nonsense is going on. You're trying to figure out exactly what. Let's start by looking at the options menu, shall we? So you can put on your widescreen video there, which is generally a good idea. You don't really want anything else. You want the highest quality you can get. Field of view is available. It is a first-person game, even though a lot of it is done in FMV. You will be walking around environments, so field of view is kind of required. It's capped out at 90, which is a little low, but basically 90 is your bog standard, so it's okay. Would have liked to see maybe 100 there. Render quality, light quality, shadow quality, and dynamic shadow distance. Okay, so I have maxed all of these out. I'm not going to lie to you, this is not a good-looking game, even if you do max it out, though. And that's pretty much it for the options. In fact, what I would say about this options menu is that if you look at the font choice and everything else in regards to its design, it very much looks like the menu was kind of put together last minute. And then you've got your separate audio sliders, which is very important considering there's a lot of voice acting in this game here. Here's your input. You do have keys. They cannot be rebound. This is pretty silly, actually. It's just, I mean, this might as well be readme.txt, which is not brilliant. That said, the game can be controlled entirely with the mouse and WASD. And it's, I don't know, it's still, you know, you still should be able to rebind. I don't care what kind of game it is. You should be able to rebind your bloody keys. And then you've got your languages there as well. And that is pretty much about it. Okay, let's jump into the game. So, this game is completely story-driven. So what I'm going to do, I've got a good amount into this game. And I actually had some problems with making this video because my save files corrupted upon the release of the title. There was a bug with the review code version, so I had to get some new save files from Atlas in order to get the game working again. This is not a problem that affects anyone that actually owns the retail release. This is just with the review code. So that delayed me a few days, and what I'm going to do is, rather than jumping into the point that I was at, which is about halfway through the game, I'm going to jump in at the start, and the reason I'm going to do that is to minimize spoilers, because it's an entirely story-driven game. I can't show you the middle of the game. That would be absolutely terrible. You'd have all sorts of spoilers. So that's what we'll do, and that's fine, because it gives us the ability to demonstrate the mechanics and talk about the technical aspect of things. And of course, watch a few FMV sequences, because what the hell else would you do in a game like this? So we're going to load up. You'll notice I've got a lot of save files here. Many, many indeed. We're going to attempt to start from the very beginning. the very beginning. I think we'll start on day 1 Louis. That should do the job. And then we can show you an awful lot of it. Alright, welcome to Tesla Effect. Looks a little old, doesn't it? Yeah. The first thing that you might notice about this is that it is certainly not high fidelity, and it does not look like a game that came out in 2014. Not at all. The art assets in this game are not particularly good at all. Yeah, they are poor, to say the least. You can wander around and you'll notice very low texture quality, low prop quality. The modeling is basic at best. I mean, you're looking at some very kind of blocky apartments here. In general, the design is just not that strong, and everything here looks like a game from early 2000, which is unfortunate. It's pretty obvious, I think, just looking at this game, where the money went initially. Yeah, they raised a decent amount of money. It wasn't, and they didn't raise as much money as they got for Tex Murphy Under a Killing Moon, but they also had publisher support as well, so they were kind of able to make that work. But they didn't have a lot of money to play with here, and they spent it almost all on the FMV sequences, the voice acting, and the music. They certainly did not spend it on the model quality, the texture work, and everything like that. It looks pretty bad. That said, for a lot of you, or at least those of you looking for a Tex Murphy experience, you're not actually gonna care about that, are you? You don't really mind too much if this car that they made looks like a solid block of oil. Or, for instance, if a wall looks like it came out of a game from the early 2000s or late 90s. You're not going to care about that. You're going to care about things like the FMV sequences. You're going to care about the puzzle solving. You're going to care about the voice acting. You're going to care about the music and, of course, the storyline. And that's totally fair. But I just wanted to get that out of the way, that the game does not look good. And it would be very, very hard to argue otherwise. Okay, let's have a wander around. So, a lot of the areas are fairly open, and indeed there are almost no loading screens. There's a loading screen between chapters, but that's really about it. So, you are able to wander around the place, look for clues, and of course interact with various characters. What I would say is, unfortunately, a lot of the areas are very, very dead. And by dead, I mean there's not a single character ever walking around. And they get around this in various ways. If you go to the hotel, for instance, the character you talk to there is a hologram who conveniently disappears when she's not in an FMV sequence. So they have no actual character models, at least to the best of my knowledge. I haven't seen one up to this point. So everything feels completely and totally empty, which is definitely a big problem in terms of immersion. Alright, let's go and we need to go to the diner, if I recall correctly. We can also pop into the Ritz Hotel. And again, you will see the ability to explore and find various things. Yep, and conveniently there is no bell on the front desk, so I can't ring it to talk to anybody. And if I did ring it, then it would certainly be a case of an FMV sequence being triggered. Okay. Well, I will show you one of those FMV sequences. Seems like the way to go. We're going to head over to the diner, which is this area right here, the Brew and Stew. And I can show you what's going on with this. This is where the majority of the money went, folks.
My pal Louis, but I see a pretty brunette at the counter. I have the feeling she recognizes me, but I have no idea who she is.
Wow, hello, stranger.
This totally feels like a dream.
That has got to be the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Just for that, I'm gonna get you some coffee.
Sure. I like it like my heart.
Black?
Oh, man. You ruined my joke.
Is that blood?
Ow!
Oh, hush. Been out picking fights again?
I don't know what happened, but you look pretty incredible in a nurse's outfit.
You do, huh? You in the mood for a little role-playing? Who do you think you are? Mr. Tall, blonde, and bloodied.
You seem to know who I am. Who are you?
I'm Taylor, and I'll be your nurse. I recommend 2 aspirin and lots of bed rest. Maybe all afternoon long.
I have to investigate these gunshots, but maybe if I were to do it really quick.
Oh, I have to go into work today, unfortunately. But maybe after work tomorrow. Ah, geez, I'm late. I got a new extension at work. I'll send it to your smart Alex. Please, go see Dr. Donahue at the North Hill Clinic. Call me after and tell me what she says about that noggin of yours. See you, Uncle Louie.
See you, Taylor. Mr. Murphy, what are you doing here?
Louis, you look great. I hardly recognized you. I mean, how did you lose so much weight so fast? Was it some sort of hypo-lipo session?
I've been this weight for some time now. You just never noticed.
Hey, tell me when you had time to remodel this place. I mean, I was in here a couple of days ago.
Couple of days ago? You drunk again? I told you, you ain't allowed in here. You've been drinking.
Well, I don't feel drunk. It's just my brain's a little foggy.
What happened to your head?
I don't know. I woke up on the fire escape. I go into my apartment and everything is different. The street, Chelsea's newsstand, you, everything is completely different. I mean, I don't know whether I'm tripping here or having a bad dream or something.
What's the last thing you remember before you woke up?
I don't know. Something with Chelsea.
Chelsea? What day do you think it is? No, hold on. What year do you think it is?
What year? Are you serious? It's 2043.
Oh, jeez. Look at that calendar. Over there, on the fridge.
2050. What the hell's going on here? Last night, Chelsea and I went to the Golden Pagoda.
I think the wording was very, very attractive.
Oh no!
What? It's me.
Look, somebody has stolen our car. I mean, here I am, my speeder's stolen out here. I'm sitting on a great. God, that was hot!
Oi! Would you guys like a lift to the cop shop?
No, we'll walk.
He's really just trying to do us a favor.
Chelsea, I'm getting a really bad feeling about this. It's like some sort of deja vu.
The Fabergé World Tour 44, the most exotic and exquisite exhibit of the day.
Who's your mate?
Oh, that's Tex. He's having a very bad day.
That true, Tex?
Oh no, everything's just going peachy.
Well, things could get worse, huh?
He shot me. He shot both of us. He shot me. There's nothing. Why isn't there anything?
That's what I'm trying to tell you, Mike. It wasn't last night. It was 7 years ago.
What the hell is that?
Looks like you got injected with something. Maybe that's what's messing with your head. Or maybe it's that goose egg. Either way, buddy, you gotta see a doctor.
Okay, alright, so you've got, I think, enough of the FMV there to see what's going on. That is really the main feature of the game. You have these interactions with characters via FMV sequences. They've filmed alternate scenes depending on which of these options you pick, so you can roleplay a little bit here. And also, they've included clips from previous games. You probably noticed there's a much younger-looking Tex Murphy, of course, in a much lower resolution frame. So, I think it's nice that they included that, because it shows that they have improved things significantly since then, but let's be frank, shall we? As we can very much see in the pausing here, the green screening is anything but perfect. The video files seem to have a lot of artifacting in them. The game size is quite huge. I mean, I think the download was something ludicrous, like 16 gigabytes, which is to be expected with the amount of full-motion video that's going on here. But even then, you're seeing graphics artifacts, you're seeing distortion, and more to the point, you're seeing either imperfect lighting or imperfect green screening and chroma keying. Now, I gotta be honest, I don't have much amount of experience with chroma keying, but you see those little weird bits of lighting which make a lot of the characters look like they're glowing green slightly. More often than not, you'll see that some of, like, little pixels of the green screen actually come through on the finished product itself because the chroma keying wasn't perfect. You see a lot of green screen work now on both streams and on YouTube videos that's also imperfect because either the lighting's not very good or people are just not experienced with it. And there's a vibe of that. It's definitely a lot better than the quality you would see from things like YouTube videos and Twitch streams, but it's still there. And I think that that will cause a bit of disappointment for some people because you think, well, it's 2014, surely they get this thing right. But really, doing really good quality green screening, especially with CGI, is extremely difficult. You probably noticed earlier on the scene that when he opened the door had this weird golden sheen on it. And that was mostly because, obviously, it's a CGI door, and it was animated, and a lot of what's going on in the background here isn't animated. Let's go into another scene, and we'll see, you know, what's animated in the background. Not much. Almost everything is static in most of these scenes, and when they do an animation with the green screen, that's when you generally see that the CGI just doesn't have the budget to look great. So that can be something of a problem there. They use a lot of static shots when they can. They use limited camera angles when they can, because obviously they need to save money. The acting itself, though, is actually, for the most part, pretty good. I gotta say, it's cheesy, yes, but I think that might be the kind of thing that Tex Murphy fans were looking for. And that's where we start to get into the interesting part of developing an FMV game in 2014 when FMV games are no longer relevant. This kind of real acting on CGI green screen stuff just isn't done anymore. And this is a very, very unique title as a result of that. This is the revival of a series that stopped being produced in 1998. 1998. That's a long, long time ago. And for this to even come around and actually exist in 2014 is ludicrous. No one else is trying to make these games. And there is a market for it still. But obviously, it got kickstarted and it raised a lot of money, and it's being bought in reasonably large numbers. Yes, people do remember the Tex Murphy series, and yes, people do want more of the Tex Murphy franchise because they are supporting this title. So, at that point, you have two interesting perspectives to take. Someone that's never played a Tex Murphy game outside of this one, which would be me, and someone that has played all the other Tex Murphy games, and whether or not they're going to be happy with this particular situation and with this particular game. So, first from the perspective of someone who's never played a Tex Murphy game, there's a curious nostalgic element to it. And I think it's because I do remember a long time ago playing games that did have some FMV elements. Enemy Zero is an example of that on the Sega Saturn. And of course, you know, things like Riven had plenty of FMV sequences in them as well, and they were, I would say, first-person kind of puzzle games, but really they were almost slideshows for the most part. In this game, you do walk around in full 3D, even if it's not rendered particularly well. So, there's a certain charm to it, I suppose. And I think that that's what carries the experience in general, because even though you can criticize it from a technical standpoint, the people who are really going for this game, i.e. the people that like Tex Murphy, are used to far worse. And seeing things updated into widescreen video alone in 1080p is a huge upgrade compared to what was there previously, even if it's not massively well realized. And the Tex Murphy experience, that being, you know, the lengthy noir-style monologues, the detective experience, gaining detective points for investigating various aspects of the title, and the interaction with the different characters is what people are looking for. Yeah? The silly humor, the cheesiness, the slapstick comedy, the weird vision of the future with a noir spin on it. They're looking for that kind of thing, and they will find it in droves, because that is what the game is. Now, outside of the exploration, there is puzzle solving. And that can involve various things, including the very basic point-and-click kind of stuff, as well as actual logic puzzles. So let's have a look at the interface here. If you hit tab, it brings up your Smart Alex, which is kind of your PDA that talks to you and makes smart Alex remarks. And then if we look at this, we'll see the stuff that I have in my inventory. Now, I am able to click these and combine them if I happen to have what I need in order to do so. And it's rub one on the other and combine items to make stuff. You know, a very early example in the tutorial explains that getting glue and a broken record makes a fixed record. You know, very, very easy thing to understand there. And then you've got logic puzzles which appear in the world, some of which can include basic kind of Simon Says sort of stuff. There's a puzzle later on where you have to add everything up to a certain number, and it's kind of a pyramid, so you've got to put the right cards in the right places in order to add it up in every line to a certain number. So, those logic puzzles are there. Now, the game does allow you the option to actually skip them, which is probably for the best, considering that some of them are, I wouldn't say obtuse, but for my pitiful brain when it comes to solving that kind of thing, a little bit difficult.
Welcome in. Welcome to the Golden Gate Hotel. How can I help you? Mr. Murphy?
Wow. Service around here has gotten a lot better and a lot smarter. Call me Tex.
No, thank you. The last time I tried that, you were all...
I'm a professional and should be treated as such.
For some self-righteous baloney like that. Management heard about it and I didn't get any time off for a month.
And that was supposed to be me? How do you know so much about me anyway?
Unlike you tangibles, we have computer brains.
Well, I don't meet many button-activated women, although it'd be a great optional feature. What's your name?
You know very well who I am. Holly Graham. Cute, right? You tangibles just can't resist a pun.
So, I think your sign has a typo. It says holograms are people, too.
So you can read. It's for the hologram rights movement.
I hate to tell you this, but holograms aren't people. And I happen to know because I've dated a few.
That's exactly what they used to say about minorities, women, and mutants. It's our turn now. I'm officially on strike.
Well, I support you 100%. I believe everybody deserves equal treatment.
Really? You're the last person I thought I'd hear that from. Everyone in this neighborhood's afraid of you, you know.
I think your file on me might be corrupted. Mind if I ask a few diagnostic questions?
Sure. Though I should warn you, I don't get out much.
It's cute. The dialogue is cute, there's no doubt about that. Some of it's cheesy, to say the least, but I think the writing in general is pretty reasonable, and it has definitely given me a few giggles here and there. But yeah, I pretty much just described the game for you, honestly. The idea that you walk around solving puzzles and then interacting with characters. Now, it does have a so-called path system as well as a PI rating system. The path system supposedly allows for different outcomes in various places and, of course, affects your rating at the end of the game. So it's designed to allow for multiple playthroughs. So there is a degree of divergence in it, although it's not immediately obvious. Having not beaten the game entirely, it's kind of difficult to tell just how much that really affects things. So again, feel free to check out a proper review from someone that's actually beaten the whole game if you want to find out more about the path system. But outside of that, you earn points, which go into a rating. As you see, I've got PI rating 1 here, and there's the current path that I'm on. And then I can also spend the PI points that I earn from solving the various little puzzles and also finding clues on unlocking hints and actually skipping puzzles entirely. Now, I'm on easy mode right now. I'm going to be honest, this is not the kind of game that I'm any good at whatsoever. It's a point and click combined with a puzzle game. Yeah, it's pretty much a nightmare here. So on easy mode, if I get my flashlight out, it's going to highlight things that I can interact with and I need for the story. So grabbing the lockbox key, for instance, there. Everything else could still sort of be investigated for points, but that will find you the essential stuff. So it's a useful little feature to have with a flashlight. Now, outside of that, you can actually unlock hints. So this is a very, very, very minor spoiler. How to find a ladder, for instance. I can click this and it will tell me exactly what to do. All that is built, well, not exactly what to do, but mostly what to do. It'll tell me what I need to do in order to progress to the next part. I click that, I lose points, it saves the game, and it's like how to unlock the door to the Snow White warehouse. Look at the ladder on the pulley outside the Snow White warehouse, navigate up to there and pull the lever, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Pretty easy to understand, isn't it? Yeah. That system is there for those who just want the story and don't really want to worry too much about solving the puzzles. And of course, you can also use the same system for skipping various puzzles, but you will lose points in the process. On normal mode, you do not really have the ability to do that. And that's it. I mean, that's what the game is. What is my opinion on it? Well, outside of the fact that the graphics look very, very dated indeed, what I would say is the game has, as I said, a certain amount of charm. And with a title like this, especially something that's kickstarted by a certain group of people, you really have to think about who this game is actually aimed at. And it's aimed at the people that kickstarted it. It's really as simple as that. Oh, yes. Move the rock. There we go. Basic kind of little puzzle here. And then we can read that, and that should allow us to access this. It is aimed at the people that kickstarted the game. That is the primary audience for this game. Anyone that buys it outside of that is bonus. Those people put real money into this title. They wanted this game to exist, and they wanted a Tex Murphy game, and that, it seems like, from what I can tell, is exactly what has been provided here. FMV heavy, puzzle heavy, silly dialogue heavy, cheesy green screen heavy. As simple as that, with plenty of callbacks to the older titles, like this one, for instance.
Still here? I used this to deal with a cunning criminal on my Under a Killing Moon case who had a bad case of bozophobia.
I think it's safe to say that they improved the green screen and CGI just a little bit since that game. Jesus. Oh my. It is a big nostalgia trip back to a forgotten time when these kind of games actually existed and sold. And surprisingly enough, it actually has its moments. So, will this even attract... I don't even know if I could say this would attract people into this genre, because this genre doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you can go back and play the old games. They're all on GOG, and they all still run really well, if you can get over the fact that they are ancient. I think it is a nice little trip backwards, because strangely enough, as weird as it sounds, I think there is still value to cheesy green screen FMV stuff in 2014, purely based on just how rare it actually is. And gameplay-wise, even though it looks pretty terrible, it works fairly well. It's got some good puzzles, it relies on both investigation and logic, which I like a lot. I do think the presentation is lacking, but the voice acting and the actual cast is pretty good. Probably nobody you'd know, but they do a good job. So, this is a cheesy blast from the past. Brought, I wouldn't even say brought kind of back into the modern light, because this could have very easily been released like 10 years ago. There's no doubt, you know, this could have been released in 2004. It probably looked like this as well. But those games simply were not popular anymore, and no one made them. And now they decided, you know what, let's revive it. Why not? Let's have a look at it and see whether or not people will be interested. And evidently they were. And frankly, I think they got exactly what they asked for.
Ladies and charms, I'm your entertainer tonight, Mr. Franco Spinoza. I'm going to be playing some songs that I know you'll love. Listen to this one. Hard and cold, it's what it does to me. Hot and cold, the shower sprays on me. La la. Hey.
This we did not need, however. Please, for the love of God, stop. Thank you. If you can appreciate, or if you are looking for a nostalgia trip, that is what Tex Murphy is. That is what it was designed to be. I don't believe it was ever designed to evolve the genre, because genre's dead and buried. It's a fossil. It's a nice blast from the past, a callback to the kind of games that we saw back in the 90s. And it achieves that. That is exactly what it achieves. That is pretty much all it achieves. It certainly doesn't win any prizes for sodding texture quality. Look at that. Ah, hideous! Hideous! But, no, not more of this, good God. It's a funny story that's well acted. It's of decent length. It doesn't outstay its welcome, from what I can see. And it's got some fun puzzles, and even has at least an element of replayability, which is surprising in and of itself, considering it's an FMV game. The ability to see those different scenes and answer in different ways does unlock additional content. And, you know, I'm just, a little part of me is just kind of happy that this game exists, because, frankly, it has no right to. The fact that it does exist is a indication that there are a large number of passionate people that wanted to make this game happen, either by developing it, working on it, acting in it, or indeed paying for it through crowdfunding. And that's the spirit of Kickstarter in action there. I've said a lot of bad things about Kickstarter lately, rightfully so, I think. Giving money to stuff that doesn't exist yet is a risky proposition. But what I would say is that every now and again you get a game out of Kickstarter that would... There's no way in a million years that it would have actually existed without Kickstarter. And it's brilliant that it now exists as a result of Kickstarter being there. That's cool, yeah. At its best, Kickstarter is a means to create a project of passion, which is what Tex Murphy is. It is certainly a heavily flawed title, whether it be simply due to its choice of genre, or whether it be due to the fact that its art assets are weak. That's a generous way of putting it. You know, the game in many places looks pretty damn hideous and ancient. But it's the only game in town when it comes to FMV titles with a bunch of puzzles in them. This is one of them, by the way. It's a basic Simon Says logic puzzle, which actually is pretty damn difficult, considering there's a lot of... It actually goes up to 8, if I recall correctly, in order to unlock the next chapter here. Pretty kind of ridiculous to deal with, but, you know, there are ways and means to skip them by using the point system. Yeah, there you go.
Looks like an old speakeasy game.
Tex Murphy, ladies and gentlemen, $20 gets you this Kickstarted, crowdfunded labor of love that is a giant cheese fest. And we're just gonna lose points and skip past this entirely there. Pretty much, I think, the only character model in the game, but yeah. I can see why they didn't put too many more in. Heavily flawed. No doubt about that. But still maintaining some of its own value in 2014. And it certainly has a right to exist, and I'm glad that it does exist, even if it's not my thing, and it's clearly not my genre. My name has been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Tex Murphy, Tesla Effect, or Tesla Effect, a Tex Murphy adventure, whichever you prefer. $20 gets you this, and the old games are available on GOG.com as well. Worth investigating if you're looking for a big nostalgia trip. A first-person point-and-click with a lot of green screen FOV and silliness. FOV. I seem to have that on the brain. Thank you very much for watching, folks. I'll see you next time.